Hi, I'm Liz.
And I'm Rhea.
Welcome to Karma's My Bitch, a podcast about love,
Sex,
connection,
abundance,
joy,
purpose,
peace,
and how life isn't simply the stories we tell ourselves.
I'm glad we're doing this episode, yeah? I really think that it's important for people to understand, you know, when you're in your karma really defines our bad experiences, right? In such a way that we think if one thing happens, right, everything is going to stop us in our tracks and something's going to get worse, right? Like that's all we're it's like that other shoe's going to drop.
Which wasn't really the case, right?
No, because they're not. It's not the same as karma. When you are no longer in your karma, and even when you are happy, you know, these quote unquote bad moments or unpleasant moments, if you will, are actually what guidance calls pause moments.
Okay, go on. What does that mean?
Pause moments are just times that you need to reflect consciously, you know, about where you are and where you're going. And these are just merely moments of transition. And sometimes those transitions, you know, they're forcing us to stop, sort of step aside, home in on what our desires are, and explore where we are not exercising our joy. And for you, I mean, specifically for you, since you brought it up, you know, we'll just kind of go down this road. I guess you're the metaphor. You're the party metaphor of the other day. It's going to be Rhea's brief stint into her pause moment recently, her recent pause moment and what that looked like. It felt bigger than it needed to because it wasn't just a basic pause moment where you found yourself, you know, oh, what am I going to do next? It was all the stuff that you hadn't yet dealt with just for reasons of being on holiday and my move and stuff. So a lot of things got compounded and all kind of collided into like 1 week.
Yeah.
And that to you felt like hell, but to us it was quite clear what was going on. It was just a multitude of things. But it did, and you even said it, you stopped and you were like, even the things that brought me joy weren't bringing me joy. No. But you weren't even in position to exercise those things.
No.
That was part of the issue, was even your freedom was stemmed, right?
Yeah.
Because you couldn't even source yourself.
No.
That's how difficult it got.
That was awful. Will I experience more of those in my life again?
Not in the same way, because I think you'll learn to manage your choices better. Because part of that was also just having made commitments and stuff that, you know, you realize, well, and again, this is goes back to our previous episode, which was you just don't promise a future that you can't deliver. And we're not going to be in positions in 5D in this world to really make a lot of future promises. We're going to have to get a lot more comfortable scaling back our commitments, not in a way in which we become unreliable, but it actually allows us to show up because we're not filling our calendars for tomorrow and then realizing when tomorrow comes that we're not that person anymore because we really aren't.
That makes sense.
It sounds like a meme, you know, like I'm not going to show up. I wasn't the person who made that commitment, but it's kind of true.
And also, I'm the kind of person that really cares about making those commitments and seeing them through.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's kind of like long-term commitments made when not realizing and not accounting for the fact that there are times in which we just won't be able to meet them when we're becoming different people all the time.
Yeah. How often how many pause moments do we have in our lifetimes? And what are the reason for these pause moments?
These pause moments, like, well, even outside of your karma, you're here for your growth and evolution, right? And so our growth and evolution is going to demand that we have certain challenges, and guidance likes to call them pressure cooker moments. In addition to your pause moment, you've had your pressure cooker experience.
And is that normal to have both at the same time?
It can happen. We wouldn't say it's normal. Yeah.
And why do we have these pressure cooker moments?
Well, we have them for 3 reasons, interestingly enough. And I was like, wow, why can't we just say we just won't have them at all?
Yeah, that would be ideal.
That would be super ideal. So even when we're happy, you know, I'm like, really? Can we just get to bliss and be done? The first reason is to accelerate our growth. So we need, in order to make another leap into our evolution, we need to sometimes get moving. Because sometimes, especially if we're happy, we're like, this is all good. I'm good, you know, and it doesn't mean you stop living or you become complacent, but maybe you become minorly complacent. So these pressure cooker experiences, they just kind of light a fire under you, and they're like, oh, just remember who you are. Remember your gifts. Like, remember your talents. Remember why you're here. Are you really full on in your purpose yet? And so it might mean a big change in job or relationship or a move. It just depends. Apparently for me, I just love to move, and that's just where I get all my growth from. So the second reason is purpose. Your purpose might require you to learn something unfamiliar. So in addition to your daily life, you're going to probably, maybe it means, like for you a few years ago, how to edit a podcast.
Fine. So it's a pressure cooker moment because you're doing your daily life whilst also learning something new.
Exactly.
Okay.
The third one would be aligning to new or uncertain circumstances.
Like what?
I was like moving to a new city and how all the adapting that comes with that and what that required of me. I mean, I've just been through it. So it's a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I was just like, I told you, like there were moments I just wanted to scream when you're in something when you're like, I'm at capacity. This is out of your karma because when you're in your karma, it doesn't take much, right? But when you're happy and life is pretty much just moving along fairly steady in these uncertain times, if that's possible, you can still get to that point where you're like, I am so at capacity. I'm going to scream if I receive one more email. Even if it's an innocuous one, I am just going to throw my computer.
Yeah.
It happens. It can happen.
So can you have more than one in a go?
Yes, you can. You can. It could be any combination of them. I mean, usually you're going to look at one to be the most common reason.
So you're just accelerating your growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, these are in order, by the way. So like 2 would be the second most common and so on.
How long do these normally take, these pressure cooker experiences?
It depends on the individual. So we are not inclined to give a time frame.
Okay.
Now, remember, this all comes when you are happy.
Okay.
Okay. This is the only lens in which we could really explain it. So when you are happy, that's not conditional. Right? So you could attest to the fact that deep down there was still something, but you were like, you couldn't help but also question, but is this something else? Does that make sense? Because it's easy. And this is why, we talked about not conflating outward experiences or emotions or anything going on in the world. You cannot pin your happiness or your sense of satisfaction on anything else. And when you're centered like that, and when you're centered in yourself, you're going to know about how long it's going to take.
Just to get the things off your plate, basically, right?
Exactly.
So how do we handle these moments? What do we do?
Yeah, it's really simple, as crazy as it is. You just go quiet. You just go quiet. And it's not where either your higher self you're just like, okay, fine, I just give it all over to my higher self and I surrender it. Or just going outside of yourself when you're done. Like as if like, okay, I'm just going to go and rely on an old coping mechanism, close my eyes and just wait for the storm to pass.
Get through it yourself.
You actually just have to get through it. And it just, and you go quiet because it's internal work that needs to be done. So sometimes you just need time and space in order to kind of contemplate something or just come into yourself more deeply. You'll know when you're ready because you'll just be like, oh, I'm good. I'm just going to go dancing. The thing that I really didn't feel comfortable giving myself permission to do, I can go do now.
It's funny because you think about it, that's what I did. I just kept saying, I need time, I need space. I was sleeping so much. I wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
Well,
you were doing what you had to be done.
Yeah.
Which sometimes can look like the bare minimum to some. I'm not you. I wasn't like, oh, Ray, you're doing the bare minimum. You actually weren't. Neither of us were when we were in our moment. It was just a lot at one time. So you were like, bare minimum was still a lot.
Yeah, it was.
But you do the best you can, knowing that at some point it will clear up.
Yeah.
But the one thing you don't do, and when you're happy, you're not going to be inclined to do it, is you can't go blaming others.
No, I didn't do that.
No, you didn't. I'm not saying you did. As my point is that it's no one else's fault that you're in that moment. No one else is responsible. Annoying. Yeah, and it's just one foot in front of the other.
And is your magic on in these pressure cooker experiences?
One doesn't have to do with the other. Okay. So yeah, it is.
Okay.
But
you might just still feel overwhelmed.
Yeah, but it may not be of any use. Because remember, magic is sort of joy-based. If your joy is not front and center, your magic isn't going to be front and center either. And your magic isn't going to get you out of it because that's not what it's there for, right? Yeah.
So happiness isn't that we're happy on the surface all the time.
No, not at all. It's just the full-bodied knowing that you're exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you want to be doing, and enjoying those moments as best you can as you go along.
So even when you have your off days or bad days, you're still doing what you need to do. I wanted to be finishing it. I wanted to be doing it because I knew that I would enjoy it when it was done. And actually, I was enjoying it even at the time in a weird, fucked up way because I got to also clear shit out. And I was enjoying throwing things and saying goodbye to the past as I was doing it, right? Like letting these things go. So as much as it was annoying and frustrating, I could have done a worse job, but I didn't. I did everything I needed to do because I knew it was important to do it.
Yeah. Or in my case, my move. I dread them. I talk about them for a while. I process before it all happens. My life is fine up until the movers arrive. I mean, there's a lot of packing that goes into this, which is annoying. But, I was still going on holiday. I was still living my life. But then the day the movers came, I knew that marked a moment. And I was going to be on that ride until whatever day that it was finished. And it wasn't going to be when my stuff came and my shipments arrived. That would just be one of the many markers. And you let me go quiet, which was nice because what makes it challenging is when you're in partnership, right? Of any kind, whether it's work or home life, the other person is always going to be affected to some degree.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're with you all the time. And I know you were just gracious enough to give me space and you didn't take it personally. And it wasn't like I kept saying, I'm not going anywhere, but I just need time. I just need space. Because if I didn't have it, I was going to get increasingly frustrated. And it wasn't that I was unhappy. You never mistake when you're happy that going through something like this makes you unhappy. It just means, and again, I think there might have been an episode in this season, I want to say, but it could also have been the other one, where this is why we also need to understand our emotional scale. Sometimes it's also just frustration. Sometimes it's annoyance. Like there's just enough we need to have enough in our emotional vocabulary to understand that if I am stressed, I'm not unhappy. I just have a stressor because I'm here to figure things out and I'm figuring it out. And this is how I'm managing.
Well, it makes sense because if you were saying we've been saying that to be human is what lends to that happiness, right?
Yeah.
That it's not just like sitting on a mountaintop and thinking you're so divine. Like that's not what makes one happy. A human life is messy. It's not always easy and simple and chilled. And, even for the generations who follow us, it's not always going to be, you're still going to have to move. Things are still going to get messy. But you can we're growing up again and again and again. We're becoming wiser and wiser and wiser. And sometimes that doesn't feel comfortable. And it's funny because normally I'd say the one biggest issue I had in like the heat of my pressure cooker moment was I noticed some doubts creeping in around my faith. I definitely noticed that. But I also noticed that those were the ones that hurt me the most. And so I had to keep choosing again and again to keep believing again and again in myself. Yeah. Right? Over and over again. And actually, that was a really good experience in some ways because I wanted to remember what I'd chosen. And I could see what happened when I didn't. When I got lost in someone else's world that wasn't as full of light and how that made me feel. And so it kind of validated my choices up until that point, not discredited them. Because like even in my darkest moments, I didn't try and quit. Yeah. I didn't try and give up. I didn't blame anyone. I didn't do anything. I just got on with it. Yeah. And I just knew it will be better. I just have to finish what I've started.
Absolutely. And in the end, and I've always said, we're not here to cruise through our lives. Our growth and evolution depends upon these challenges. And it's part of our soul's directive. Our happiness is a very human thing. But our humanness does depend on growth as well. Yeah. Yeah. Expansion.
Otherwise, if you don't create, you're destroying.
Precisely. And our souls also require that, their growth and evolution. So it can come into greater and greater wisdom. So it all kind of comes hand in hand.
Yeah.
But it's nothing to fear. It's never saying, well, then there's something wrong. We could go there, but there's no reason to go there because we're not ever going to backslide once we're out of our karma. And even when you're in your karma, there really is no real backsliding. Going through another loop is just a reminder that maybe there was a piece that you hadn't picked up the first time. So once you really achieve or you hit happiness, it doesn't leave you, no matter how bad your off day feels. Thank you for listening. For more information, articles, and inspiration, find us at karmasmybitch.com and at karmasmybitch.insta.
And if you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review.